Springtime is almost here. I'm out practicing, but the one thing I hear as a rider coach for Harley Davidson, especially after people have taken the basic rider course, the one thing I hear as to why people don't practice these slow speed skills, which are critical even when you're out on the road at high speed, is I'm afraid I'm going to drop my bike. So guys, in today's video, we're going to cover a couple of things you can do to your bike to hopefully alleviate that fear. And also just a few things I'm going to show you what I do out in the parking lot as I begin to warm up for the springtime and the spring riding season so that my skills are sharp. And I'm also ready to begin teaching those basic rider and skilled rider courses again at Harley Davidson. So let's get into all that right after this. Here in the garage, I'm going to show you a couple things that I do to all my bikes so that you don't have to fear dropping that bike. So the first thing I do, if you have any of the standard or special models that don't come with these saddlebag guards, that's a really easy install. I put those on all my bikes. Some people may say, well, those don't look very aesthetically pleasing, but believe me, a small investment in these is going to save you big time from scratching these bags, which are super expensive. These actually happen to be from TCMT. I've done a full install video on these. I've done a long-term review on these. These fit just like Harley Davidson. They perform just like the Harley Davidson version, but they're a lot less expensive. And I will actually have a link to that video on how to install these, as well as an affiliate link so that you guys can get these to put on your bike for under $60 by using a discount code that I will also have down in the description. All right guys, so if you put those saddlebag guards on and your bike has engine crash guards up here, either the chop version or the full size, another thing you can add are these, and they probably don't show up so well, but these are the motorcycle drop guards. I actually have another set that I'll show you in stainless steel that I'm planning to put on the CVO Street Glide. But these go on your front crash guards, they go on your saddlebag guards, and then there's also a piece that goes down underneath your primary so that you don't get damage on that. And the clips that I had at the very beginning, those two bikes actually both had motorcycle drop guards on them, and there was no damage to the bikes. So let me show you a couple more clips. Use some really hard drops with these motorcycle drop guards, and I will tell you no damage bikes that had these drop guards on them. So here's the stainless steel version. This is actually the one that goes under the primary that I'll be putting on the CVO since it's all chrome. All the screws and hardware are included. It's pretty straightforward. But if you go to the link that I'll have down in the description for motorcycledropguards.com, you can see how these perform. All the installation information is there. It's just a few screws. It takes just a few moments to put these on. But I will tell you the one little secret. When you're putting these on, a lot of times people think they should roll down and be on this curve. But actually the top of this should be at the part of the engine guard here that is straight up. And so that really you get the hit down here underneath where your bolts and screws are so that that stays solid. And then the same down on the saddlebag guards as well. Similar setup for that. And installation video are on the motorcycledropguards.com website. And I've also worked with Motorcycle Drop Guards to get you a 30% discount. I will put a code down in the description as well as show it right here. And that code is HDVIBE 2024, and that will save you 30%. A small investment to get you over that fear of dropping that bike and these drop guards, to me, just makes sense. Now that you've got those two items on your bike, that should alleviate a huge amount of fear of actually damaging your bike. So now the next thing is we're gonna go back outside, and it really gets down to practice, practice, practice. And I'm gonna show you and give you some tips that I do when I practice, and maybe get you a little bit more comfortable doing some of those slow speed maneuvers. Sometimes that's what people are afraid of, is they don't want to lean the bike. Get that bike rocking. I'm going a little bit uphill, so I got to use a little bit more throttle and clutch. And then we'll repeat going back down. Easier going downhill. I can get this thing really going back and forth and around. Now another thing you can do while you're out on the parking lot is you can do kind of an offset weave with these parking lots. The way it's marked, you can go like every other parking spot and just kind of do an offset weave going back and forth. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. And again, all of this is just really getting into that friction zone, getting that throttle control so you're not revving the engine. And if you can do it without back brake, even the better. If you need a little bit of back brake to drag to slow you down, especially like on this parking lot, it's a little off camber and up and downhill. Sometimes I'm using a little back brake. So let's do that now. Start coming down around this way. So I'm just going to go all the way out in these parking spots, swing around, and then turn my head nice, and repeat going back the other way. Again, just little fine movements on that friction zone. Throttle up a little bit there because I am going uphill. And again, nothing fancy here, nothing super tight. But this just gets you, again, as you're getting ready for that spring riding season, getting used to how the weight of that bike works around on the slow speed, getting used to that friction zone, keeping that bike in the friction zone, turning your head and eyes, and then we'll come back down here, we'll do a little weave back and forth, and finish up there. Just going in between, weaving in between each line, and this just gets you used to dipping that motorcycle, getting a feel for the weight, and getting a feel for that friction zone. We'll do it coming down this way as well. Just really get that bike swaying, dipping, and don't be afraid to lean the bike. When you're practicing some of these slow speed skills, again, it's all friction zone. You want to stay in that friction zone. And let me do a little bit of figure eight here. Again, this is not super tight. I think I got this set at about 20 feet by about 50 or 52 feet on the length. So let's do a few figure eights here using that friction zone. All right, so I'll come into the box here on the right side. I'm looking up range, and now I'm going to turn my head all the way as far as I can, use that friction zone, a little bit of throttle so that engine doesn't chug. And the same here, I'll look back over my right shoulder, keep looking, and really head that bike toward the middle, get back down to the end here, and turn those bars again, and head and eyes will follow. And now we'll use that friction zone and come back here to the middle. So that's a great exercise, guys. Even though people fear this figure eight, you know, fearing dropping that bike really all comes down to you are in control of that bike. You understand the friction zone. And the one secret I will give you that maybe you've heard before or maybe you haven't is if that bike feels like it's going to fall down, the natural tendency is to squeeze that clutch all the way in and take power away from that rear wheel. Well, that is your first mistake. If you actually give power to that rear wheel, that bike will begin to stand up and it will not fall over. And this 800+ pound bike can be moved around very easily, and it's all controlled with this clutch right here and using that friction zone. Hopefully you got something out of this video. Again, a couple things that you can physically put on the bike to alleviate that fear of dropping the bike and causing damage. And then once you have that set up, practice, practice, practice. It's not that difficult. As I did, I just found a parking lot at my local high school, used some of the painted marks on the parking lot, and just sort of stepped off some things and did a little bit of practice. So guys, I'm going to do a little bit more practicing. And with that, guys, if you like this type of content, please give it a thumbs up. Also consider sharing this with your friends. Leave some comments down below. Do you practice? Do you fear dropping your bike? What are some things that you've done to get over that fear of dropping your bike? Also, hit that subscribe button right down here. That really helps out the channel, and I'd really appreciate it. When you do subscribe for the first time, leave a comment down below saying I subscribe so I can personally reach out and thank you for supporting the channel. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon and select all so you do get notified every time I do put out new content. I I have over 200 videos on tips, tricks, rides, reviews, and installs on these Harley Davidson touring motorcycles. And in those 200 videos, I have playlists, which I'm sure there's probably going to be something you will learn about a product, an installation, or something that will probably save you some money, or a little tip like this to get ready for that spring riding season. And guys, with that, I want to leave you with this thought. Life is short. Get out and ride the bike. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye now.